All right, well, I would like to welcome everybody to the Super Talk on the line. We have some special guests here with us today to make sure that we're sharing our story in our new COVID-19 environment. I will say that McAllen ISD is flourishing in this environment. We've been a one-to-one district for over 10 years now. And over the last 4 years, we've really perfected our skills. And I wanted to bring on some individuals that are experts in the field, both internally with McAllen ISD and also a guest that has done a lot of work with us along the way, but somebody that has a lot of experience. And I'll introduce our guest. We have Mrs. Ann Vega, and she is our director for Instructional Technology, and we'll be hearing from her shortly. We have Mrs. Judith Escamilla, who is our executive director for the Department of Technology. We also have Mr. Carl Hooker, who is a former educator at Eanes ISD, a lot of experience in the field of technology. He's a technology consultant, an author, an expert, our friend, and he's done a lot for us throughout the year. So I'm glad to have him here with us. And we also have Mr. Jacob Berry, who is the producer of the Super Talk and also the webmaster for McAllen ISD. So there's a lot of experience in our Super Talk on the line today. And as superintendent of schools, I can say that I'm very proud to be a part of this team. And I've been with this team for going on 23 years now. And a big part of our strength is our people and our infrastructure. And that's why we've been able to maneuver, and we were able to pivot so fast into this environment of distance learning. And a big part of that is again, our one-to-one initiative and our outstanding teachers and our great leadership. But I just wanted to start out with a question for Ann Vega. Whenever we look at internet safety, I think that's a big deal for us, and it always has been. But now in this new environment where teachers are now parents and parents are now teachers, they're kind of playing both roles. So when they're in that zone, what's some advice that we have for parents with regard to keeping kids safe on the internet?
Well, I think it's important for parents to know that as a school district, there's certain rules that we have to follow. And so starting off with, we get E-rate funding every year. And with that E-rate funding, there are stipulations. And some of that is that we have to provide digital citizenship lessons for our kids. So all of our libraries have offered digital citizenship lessons, and we ask for a certificate after they have done that. And also on our part, we share daily digital citizenship tips. And then, of course, we partnered with Futuro RGV last year and hosted a parent forum. But I think when it comes to parents and what they're dealing with now at home is really just being part of whatever it is that their kids are doing. And when I say that, I'm saying, always preview what they're listening to, what they're watching. And I know right now with apps and everything that parents are doing, I think it's important for parents to be on those same types of platforms. So I know with my kids, if, once they were on Instagram, I was on Instagram. When they were on Twitter, I was on Twitter. If you have kids on Snapchat, you should be on Snapchat. If you have kids on TikTok, you should be on TikTok. And that way you're kind of gauging what they're doing, what it is that platform offers. And again, you want to make sure that that your kids know that whatever they put out there, everything that they put out there, even though they think it's private, everything on the internet is there forever. And the digital footprint that they're leaving is something that will either something they'll be proud of or something that will come back and haunt them later on in their life. There's no such thing as private when it comes to the internet.
Very good. Thank you very much. And Judith, as our executive director for the Department of Technology, you're a big part of our one-to-one right now, as is Ann, and making sure that everything's functioning. If there's any parents out there, and by the way, Ann, that was great advice for parents and keeping on top of their children and things of that sort. So to all the parents, make sure to take advantage of what Ms. Vega just talked about. But to Judith, what can parents do if they're having connectivity issues, if they're having issues connecting to the internet at home, if they don't have service? What are some of the things that they can do?
Well, if they have services, it's just a process of connecting to their existing Wi-Fi, their existing router, so they can get the right accessibility to the devices that we provided each student. If they don't have internet services, some of the things that we've been promoting is for them to seek out some of the free services that Spectrum has been providing for the local area. And a lot of our parents have been able to leverage some of those free internet or special rates that they're able to leverage. Some of them are at $5 a month. That it is very important for every household to have internet connectivity. It enhances um, every stipulation of our future for students or for our parents. It's something that is become a utility. It's like water and light and gas. It's just something that you have to have. This is how you're able to progress, able to do research, able to enhance, able to know what's going to come down the pipe. So it's very important to have that. It has become a basic utility for everyone. The other things that we're doing is I'm working really closely with the director of student outreach, Ms. Elizabeth Cavazos, and we were able to leverage 600 hotspots and are looking at the need that is out there, but we're looking more of a household need, not a student need, trying to address more of how many students can we help, not just look at per student, because sometimes we're able to leverage that household that probably has 3 students in our ISD. So we're trying to look at all those little details to make sure that we provide the devices, but allow them to have the accessibility that is now become a utility that is a must for every citizen in our community.
Thank you. And Carl, thanks for coming on. I know you're a busy guy. You do consulting across the U.S. and I know that you have a vast wealth of information through your experiences. What are some of the best practices that you're seeing across the state with regard to instructional technology in this new environment we're in?
Well, I'll start out. Thank you, Dr. Gonzalez. I'll start out by saying that it's obvious to me because I've visited many districts across the country and, of course, the state of Texas. There's a handful that I feel get it, and it's obvious to me based on the leadership that you have even on this call that you guys figured it out. So kudos to you, first of all, for that. I would say that the schools that are getting it right now have already been preparing their teachers. They've had training over the summer, which I know you guys have done religiously over the last several years in terms of bringing teachers in and saying, here are the tools you can use to enhance your classroom and blend the actual learning. Well, this moment happens in time, and all of a sudden that switch has to be turned on. Some teachers had those skills pre-built, and a lot of that you guys had already done with them. And the districts that are doing it well, I would say, have already had those practices in place for several years. Now, the districts that don't, they're trying to recover as fast as they can. So a lot of them, I have friends across the country, like I mentioned, some of them are doing things like taking apart carts just to get some devices out into the hands of kids as quickly as they can, doing things like Judith was mentioning, getting hotspots out to those families. And in a lot of cases, I will tell you, most districts, they can only provide one device per family. In some cases, like my friend's district in Atlanta, he was telling me the other day, they have eight school-age kids in their house. So imagine that with one device and how hard that is for a family, especially when mom and dad are probably trying to get some work done themselves using their own devices. So I will say that you guys kind of front end loading those built-in tools with instructional technology, the integration tools, things like Seesaw and Microsoft and Google and all the things that you've used already, that's inherent to those teachers. So it's just a matter of then informing the parents, which I think is what you guys are working on now, is that kind of next step of saying, here are the tools and here's how you use it as a parent. Because honestly, I'm a parent and I'm an ed tech person, and even I see stuff for my kids. I'm like, wait, I've got to figure that out, right? Because it's different from a parenting lens versus a teaching lens. So I will say again, laying that groundwork was important. And if you hadn't, right now, I think it's all triage. So luckily for you guys, you were able to kind of turn on the switch and be able to hand that out. So that's great.
Yeah, it was impressive to see the team maneuver from one day to the next and all the planning that went into it. But you're absolutely right, Carl. There was a lot of infrastructure and a lot of foundation that had already been laid in previous years. So we are very fortunate that we've been a progressive district for a long time. We're fortunate that we have these wonderful employees that are able to step up to the challenge. And then we have great consultants like you that have been coming in for years now and training up our teachers. And I agree with you on the parent side. I'm a parent too in the district. I have a kindergarten student, a first grader, and a second grader. And And the whole experiment on trying to figure out and get our technique down to how many hours do we spend grinding on core curriculum, and then how do we leverage technology. And that's one of the things that we discovered at home, was that a good 3 hours of grinding on content was sufficient. We could get through the math, get through the reading, we can get through the science and the social studies and all of that in a good 2 or 3 hours. After that, what helped us tremendously was being able to leverage our iPads and get the kids on Dreambox to work their math skills, to get the kids on Accelerated Reader and really push hard to gain points and read for comprehension. And that allowed us to do exactly what you said, Carl, is it gave us, our parents, especially mom, because my wife's the one that's carrying the load there, but it gave her time to catch up with things that she needed to do. So to all the parents out there, leverage our technology in a way that it allows you to have some time to take care of loose ends you have in the household, while simultaneously still providing your children quality instruction. That's the magic of technology, is it allows you to do what would otherwise not be humanly possible.
And I'll add one more thing to that real quick.
Absolutely.
And that is because you mentioned having elementary age kids, and so do I. I have a first, second, and fifth grader, and I'll say that as a parent, probably parents aren't used to seeing these devices at home, right? And when they have the devices, if they have any device at home, what's it used for primarily before the situation? It's usually for entertainment, right? It's here's a game, go play. So it's kind of neat to see the parents now get to see, like, wow, here are all these tools that my kid has been leveraging, but actually see it in their hands. I love that. That's something that's come out of this that I like. I know this is a scary situation, but there are some opportunities now for parents to see, like, this is a very good instructional device. It's not just Netflix, right? It's using things like Dreambox, using things like AR to get on there and actually leverage those tools. So I do like that. And as a parent, I'm seeing it more and more with my kids, and they can turn that switch on. It's like, okay, this is an instructional activity now. It's not just playing a game on my device. So I just wanted to add that in there.
No, that's a great point. That's a very good point. And Judith, if there's any parents out there or kids that are having issues or problems with their technology, what can they do?
Right now, the type of technology support that we're leveraging is dependent on the campus, right? The parents will still have that go-to person at the campus level, and typically it's a librarian or their campus technology facilitator. We have a systematic way to escalate issues that they're not able to help parents or students or teachers, and they then in turn come to us, and we've created teams very similar to what you're seeing here, where we're able to create different teams for every vertical, and we support them. So we're able to constantly have communication with these support mechanisms at every campus and district-wide. So we're able to identify what issues are happening simultaneously so we can address them and not have them escalate. The other is we have another mechanism of, we still have the help desk number, which is our 632-3238 hotline number. We have an email account that we've created for our technology support. It's called dot.helpdesk@McAllen Plus, we have a remote system through our SSO called Tech Support, which is basically a link that is support.mcallenisd.net. And that is a system that we use to remote into a device and help them through the process. Sometimes it gets to the level where we just feel like, okay, let me help you, let me install this, let me get this going. But the main thing that we need is for them to at least get on some type of device so they can communicate with us and we can start helping.
That's awesome, Judith. And I want to commend you, because I know that you worked hard with your team to set up all those support systems. So any parents or students out there, if you're having trouble with your technology, you can go back to this video, rewind it, or I'm sure that Jake will put up some text on the screen when we get this going, so that you can reach out, whether through website, email, or phone number, so that you can get the support that you need, because we want you utilizing that technology for obvious reasons, because we know it's good for children, and we're trying to make sure that we continue to provide quality as we move forward. And you mentioned McAllen ISD students had the opportunity to get digital citizenship, I guess some kind of training in that area. If I'm a parent and I'm interested in my child receiving this badge or this certification or whatever, how do I go about that?
There is a site called Common Sense Media. And I can make sure that Jake puts that on the site. And through there, parents have an opportunity to go in and watch videos and have lessons with their kids. It's grade level dependent. So if you have elementary, middle, or high school, they have all kinds of resources. They have links, and they even have advice on apps and websites and so forth. So that's what I would tell them, is to get on Common Sense Media, where they can what's happening at their house and to support what we've done at the district at home.
Thank you. And Carl, you're an expert in the field. You've been doing this a long time. You're an author. You just have a wealth of experience in the area of technology. But what makes you really cool is you're also a parent. So if you had any advice for parents in this distance learning digital world, what advice do you have for parents really across the world in this area?
I would say, first and foremost, give yourself some grace and some patience through all of this. We are learning. This is not really at-home learning. This is trying to make learning happen while you're at home again. So it's a little challenging. I think you hit the nail on the head, Dr. Gonzalez, when you said that 3 hours, that's kind of a magic number. I think anything past that, and you're really kind of stretching it a little too much. So try not to press more than 3 hours of academic time without at least some sort of breaks in there. One thing that we've done in our house and started to institute is a couple different tricks and techniques that I've shared with communities, and that is making sure that there's at least some level of quiet time for everybody. That includes mom and dad. Take a break. You know, everyone go to a room or go to a section of the house or go to the backyard or the front yard and just kind of have some alone time, even just reading a book, and just to kind of give everyone a chance to reset. And then the other thing that we've done that's a technique that's been working fairly well is we have an 8 o'clock bedtime, but we've started telling the kids that if they follow all the rules and do all their work, that their bedtime gets extended to 9 o'clock without any fighting. And it's sort of worked. It's a little carrot to hang over them, and they get to watch a show with us or something like that to keep it fun. So I would say, again, yeah, watch that academic time, kind of make sure it's not more than maybe 1 to 3 hours, depending on the age of the kid. And then also, again, build in those breaks when you can. And maybe it's just a walk or going outside, taking a little bit of quiet time. And then, of course, incentives are always fun like that to let them stay up just a little bit later. But it's interesting, you know, you get to, as a parent now, set the ideal schedule for your kids. It's not really, we're not bound to a certain school schedule. So you may start to notice that your kid may learn better math in the afternoon versus in the morning. So just kind of, as you see this, kind of adjust and say, okay, you know what, we don't have to do math at 9 every morning. Maybe it's the 1 o'clock we'll do math after lunch. That way you maybe can respond better to what the kid is learning and how they're learning. So it's kind of interesting to see as a parent how you can adjust those schedules. So yeah, be flexible, but also have a little bit of rigidity there as well.
That sounds like your next book there.
Yeah, for sure, it's something.
For me and my wife, one of the things we discovered, and this is advice for parents out there, is that starting out with physical activity before we got any work done. So going for a walk or a jog around the neighborhood, or doing some wind sprints in the backyard, or anything to get their blood flowing and get that energy out of them. And then we, you know, come in and start to do that work and then stick to that 3 hour period. And my wife even started incentive tickets for good behavior and for making sure that they're working hard, and we're able to cash in those incentive tickets for things that you're talking about, like extra time with their device at the end of the day, or a little bit of an extension on bedtime. Kids just really respond to incentivizing good behavior and things of that sort. So to all the parents out there, if you don't have systems and processes in place, you can also reach out to your school so that we can help you try to come up with ideas to get you through. And another is just call on a friend. I think that a lot of times we're practicing social distancing, but it doesn't mean that you can't call another parent in the community to see what's working for them. And I think that that's important also. As we close, any closing remarks from anybody before we break? I do want to thank you all very much for taking time from your busy schedules to be here with us on the SuperTalk on the line. I hope that a parent out there takes a nugget away from our conversation, and it makes their day better, and it makes their transition to what they're doing at home with regard to educating their children smoother. So on behalf of McAllen ISD and our board of trustees, I want to thank Judith, Ann, Carl, Jake. Thank you all so much for being here today, and I look forward to visiting with you all in the near future.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Be well, guys.
Bye, Carl. Bye, Judy.